How many chairs can I jump over? So I watched a video of Speed jumping over 10 chairs, and I thought that was crazy, so I wanted to see how many that I could do. Starting with 1 chair. Now 2 chairs. On to 3 chairs. Then 4 chairs. Now 5 chairs, and this is where things started to look a bit tough. But I was able to complete it. And then 6 chairs, which I thought would be my limit, but I was actually able to complete it. And honestly, I think I could do 7 or 8, but I ran out of chairs, so until next time. This video will have a jump scare at some point. I don't want to tell you when. It could literally happen at quite literally any point. So it could happen right now. It could happen right now. You don't know. But if you do wait long enough, I promise you will see a jump scare. Legit could happen at any given point. So I don't want to ruin anything. It's not going to come out of nowhere, by the way. It's just going to pop up on screen any second. And I'm going to do it, like I promise. You're not just going to watch this video and nothing's going to happen. There is going to be a jump scare at some point. Thought it froze or something? Nope, we're still waiting. No, I'm just kidding. There's not gonna be a jump scare. You're good. I would not do that to you, but I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Goodbye. This video will have a jump scare at some point. I don't want to tell you when. It could literally happen at... I told you it was coming. I'm sorry. How long does it take for somebody to steal your laptop in New York City? So I bought a brand new laptop and headed over to Washington Square Park in New York and found a good area to plop down and start doing some work. And after finishing, I decided to get up and leave my laptop unattended to see if anybody would take it. After just 45 seconds, people were already taking a look at it, but still leaving it alone. And this continued for the next 2 minutes with regular peekers, but nobody actually stealing it. And it was more of the same for the next 2 minutes as I headed off to the bathroom, and I actually had some hope that the laptop would still be there upon my 5-minute return. But things turned south very quickly because as soon as I left at around the 5-minute mark, a guy came over and started fidgeting with it. And I knew this experiment was nearing its end because shortly afterwards he picked it up and took it walking away, leaving me to come back genuinely surprised that my laptop was taken. So the answer is about 5 minutes, so don't leave your stuff unattended in New York City. But now you know. Let's see if you can guess if these videos are real or AI. Alright, so we got a hummingbird. I feel like the detail is too enhanced, so it must be AI. A real video would have like some imperfections to it. Nope, guess I don't know anything. Alright, a dartboard. It looks pretty normal. And then the dart hits. Yeah, I would say that's real. Nope, AI, okay. Beach yoga. Oh, this is definitely AI. Look at all like the slow movement and stuff. No, somehow real. Wow, this is bad. This ghost is AI for sure. I'd bet everything on this one. All right, cool. Got a little nervous for a second. And then we got a fish just swimming between reefs. I mean, I'm not seeing anything blatantly AI. I can see this being real. Nope. What do I know? I created a mascot for Starbucks. So Starbucks has their iconic mermaid logo, but notably no accompanying mascot, and so I designed a mascot for them that captures their classic mermaid while making it cute and geared towards kids. I hired a costume designer to bring this to life, and when it arrived, it looked exactly like the mock-up. I decided to name her Venti, named after their large drink, and I brought Venti afterwards to my local Starbucks to see the response. When I pulled up, hundreds of people were taking pictures with Venti, and she was a huge hit with families, and I was even able to go behind the counter with some of the employees to hand a drink to somebody. I was there for a full hour and definitely responsible for a few people going into Starbucks, so it was a great success. However, I wanted to push things even further, and so I brought Venti to her competitor, Dunkin', to see the response, and after talking to the owner, he liked Venti so much that we decided to squash the Starbucks and Dunkin' beef, and he even let me serve donuts to the Dunkin' patrons through the drive-thru window. You're welcome, Starbucks. I tested the world's strangest liquid. It's called ferrofluid, and it's technically not a real liquid, but rather a combination form of matter that responds to magnetism and even sound in order to move. So I purchased some on Amazon, and when it arrived, it came in this case, which, when activated, allows you to test it out with a magnet to show how it moves in response to the pull. And while this was cool, I wanted to test its ability to move with sound, and so I began tapping on the glass, which, as expected, caused the liquid to respond to my touch, and not gonna lie, I was starting to feel like venom. But apparently, it's not just the physical taps it responds to, but also any sort of ambient sound in the area, like snaps or claps, or really anything that emits a sound frequency. And so as a final test, I wanted to take my Aztec death whistle and see how it responds to 100 decibels of sound. And so I did exactly that, blowing as hard as I can, and while it didn't respond that crazily, it is cool to know that this physics-defying anti-liquid actually exists. Very cool. Can you trust people in New York City? Well, to test this, I put out a free water bottle stand in the middle of New York City with a sign that says, "Please take one," curious to see if people would buy into my honor system. And so I began observing people going up, and at the start, everybody was abiding by the rule, and even groups of 2 people were only taking 1 water bottle, which was really encouraging to see. Unfortunately, though, this didn't last too long because after about 10 water bottles were taken, a man came up and was the first to break the trust, taking 2 water bottles despite being by himself. Otherwise, though, things continued fairly well, and New Yorkers weren't abusing the trust, but right as I thought that, another man comes up and completely betrays the social contract by ignoring the rules altogether and picking up some change I had left on the table that people had left for me as tips. And so I decided to shut it down right there, and the final stats were 20 people went up and 2 people defected, which means you can't trust about 10% of people. So now you know. I tested 4 levels of alarm clocks. Level 1 is a target shot alarm clock that requires you to wake up and focus to have the precision to shoot the target. Level 2 is a rolling alarm clock that runs away when it goes off to physically get you up. Level 3 is a flying alarm clock that flies away when it goes off, similar to the rolling one. Unfortunately, that one was a dud. And then level 4 is the world's loudest alarm clock, which apparently reaches over 100 decibels directly in your ear, and so I loaded that up and tried it. Very unpleasant. I think I'll stick to this one. How long would it take for an employee to notice if I messed with one of the mannequins? So to test this, I pulled up to my local Walmart and found a mannequin hidden in plain sight with the goal of putting on a goofy outfit on it to see if employees actually pay attention to their display items. I found a colorful pair of sunglasses and a Hello Kitty hat in the kids section and put it atop this lone mannequin in the men's section I found. From here, I waited a few minutes and nobody seemed to notice it, with employees and customers alike walking by but not even looking twice at it. And so to make it even more obvious, I brought an employee over and asked where I could find the outfit that the mannequin was wearing, and rather than thinking something was off, she actually just instructed me on where to find the pieces. And this went on for another 30 minutes, and so at the 45-minute mark, I decided to leave and come back a couple hours later, and upon returning, I was shocked to actually see that the employees did notice and they took the hat and glasses off, returning the mannequin back to normal. So the answer is somewhere between 45 minutes and 2 hours, but definitely longer than expected. I took the most luxurious first-class train ride. So there's a seat on a train line in Tokyo called the Cockpit Suite that, for $150 total, you can upgrade to and sit directly behind the conductor in a massive room with couches and seating for 7, with the best views on the entire train. They give you customized slippers, free water, and a ton of other cool amenities that you're able to take advantage of, including your own personal bathroom. The conductor even comes out and talks to you periodically and give you special gifts like this personal trading card that apparently all train conductors have. And you also have access to the Cockpit Lounge, which serves an assortment of food and drinks that you're able to get while you're on board. Now, since the total ride was only 45 minutes, it goes by incredibly fast as you're constantly being thrown these extra goodies and services, which makes you forget that you're even on a train. And so ultimately, is it worth it to pay basically an extra $125 for the luxury train ride? I think if you're with people, absolutely. Very cool experience. I visited the Poop Restaurant. So in Taiwan, there's a restaurant called Modern Toilet that is entirely poop themed, complete with toilet-shaped seats, poop emoji cushions, and poop decor that really brings the whole place together. When you arrive, you go up this bathroom-themed staircase with rubber duckies and bubbles up into the restaurant where you sit down at your tables with poop through the glass and you begin to order. Now, what's crazy is that the entire menu is also poop themed, ranging from these poop-shaped biscuits, PT, and then, perhaps the worst of them all, soft-serve chocolate ice cream served in a little toilet meant to look like poop. And I have to say, the food was absolutely disgusting, which at first I thought was disappointing, but then I realized was completely on brand, so I actually enjoyed it. And all things considered, relatively cheap at just $7 for the entire experience and food. So definitely unique, but would I go back to the Poop Restaurant? Absolutely not. I'm not sure why this place exists. This ancient device makes the loudest sound in the world. It's called the Aztec death whistle, and it was used by Aztecs to psychologically terrify enemies. In addition to being incredibly loud, it's also emotionally coded to add distress to anybody who hears it. So I decided to buy one on Amazon, and when it arrived, I unboxed it, and it came in this really cool woven basket pouch, and tied within it was the whistle in the flesh, just waiting to be blown. It's made of clay, and it has these internal chambers that make the air vibrate in a chaotic way, so I was excited to try this to see what it truly sounded like. I gave it a small blow to start out, as I didn't want to startle anybody, and this is what it sounded like. Then for my second attempt, I got a bit louder. And then I wanted to go one final time, this time as loud as I could go, because I really wanted to see the extent of this unsettling sound, so here it is. Fair warning. I would run too if I heard that sound. I hid a secret message in New York City to see if anybody would find it. So I wanted to see how attentive the general public was, and so I decided to head to Washington Square Park and hide a QR code containing a secret message to see how long it would take for somebody to get to it. I was looking for a good spot to put it as I wanted to be away from the common areas, and I found this little light fixture off on the lawn area that I reasoned was a perfect spot to bury the QR code. And so I taped it up so you could see it ever so slightly and decided to leave. Now the QR code leads to a video containing a secret message from me instructing the finder to follow me on Instagram and provide for me a secret code message to verify it's really them. But shockingly, at the time of this recording, not a single person has messaged me yet, meaning that nobody has still found the QR code. And I even went back to confirm that it's still there, and it absolutely is, so if you happen to see it, you know what to do. So good luck. What happens if you put your windows down during a car wash? So to answer this, I pulled up to a drive-thru in a beater car and proceeded to put down all 4 windows as I entered through. Now the owner warned me beforehand that this would be insane, but I was doubtful that it'd be that bad. And so I entered and I was immediately sprayed with this hot wax that was hitting my arm, followed by a relentless stream of soap and then of course water. The car was getting absolutely soaked after just 20 seconds in, and actually one of the scarier parts was the foam brushes that came afterwards that were smacking me through the window. The madness continued and it was just absolute chaos for 90 seconds until ultimately it stopped as I approached the air dryer, and this to my surprise was was the worst part because I probably punctured an eardrum because of how loud the air was blasting into the car. And so after completing it, this is what the aftermath of the car ultimately looked like, and unfortunately I broke a window because of some internal issues. I definitely don't recommend doing this, it's not safe. I left a review for a place before I even tried it. So I found one of the lowest rated restaurants in my area and decided to give it 5 stars and a review before going in, seeing if I can manifest my own experience. I said there was no wait, the sandwich came out in 8 minutes, and they gave me a free birthday dessert, and I also said my waitress's name was Tanya. And then after leaving the review, I headed to the restaurant hoping to clear step 1, having no wait, and there were less than 10 people inside, so this actually came true. After this, I ordered my chicken sandwich hoping to get it in just 8 minutes, and to my surprise, it literally came in 8 minutes and 40 seconds, making my review half true. From here, I told our waiter that it was my birthday to see if he'd bring me out anything for free, and he brought out an entire chocolate cake with ice cream and actually informed me that it was on the house. I was shocked that my review was coming true, but then I remembered that I said his name was Tanya, so I got his name, and turns out it wasn't his name. So the review kinda came true. I mean, maybe it's his middle name. I gave out free candy in an unmarked car to see if anybody would take it. So growing up, I was told not to approach unmarked vans that were offering free candy, but I wanted to see if people still bought into that. And so I spray painted free candy on the side of my car and drove around a parking lot asking people to come get some. But here's the catch. I actually had $200 worth of king-size candy bars waiting for anybody who actually approached. And let me tell you, I was surprised with how many people disregarded their safety and accepted the offer, with some even leaning into the car to collect their candy. Now don't get me wrong, there were a couple of people who rightfully declined, but I'd say about 80% of people thought it was fun and games, even though it technically was, and were just ultimately happy to get their hands on some free sweets. Which I get, because candy is pretty expensive nowadays, but I'd say a good rule of thumb to follow is don't accept candies from stranger and don't lean into random cars. Unless it's me. Then I got you. I tested useless AI products, starting with the $200 AI toothbrush made by Oral-B. Upon unboxing it, it looked like a standard electric toothbrush, but it came with an app that told you how long and how hard you should be brushing each tooth for. I'm not sure how useful this really is, so I wouldn't recommend this. From here, I saw Apple was selling a $60 AI water bottle, which pings you every time you should be taking a sip. After using it for a bit, I couldn't understand who would find this useful, so I don't recommend this either. Next was an AI firefighting dog, which apparently are used to put out fires. This was basically a normal robot dog with lots of different movements, but then a water canister atop it that would shoot out water. I tested this on a fire though, and the stream was too small to extinguish anything, so this thing was absolutely horrible. And then I ultimately tried an AI friend called Louie, which basically follows you around like a dog and provides companionship. But I have to say, Louie was a complete waste of time and arguably my worst purchase of all time. Save your money. These are things that are illegal to do at night. So in New Hampshire, you're not allowed to collect seaweed at night because of historical issues with farmers stealing the best seaweed before everyone had a fair chance to get in the morning, leading to that rule. It's illegal to use a hose or irrigation system at night in Philadelphia because the water pressure is managed differently post-evening and can thus interfere with the fire department's ability to fight fires. In San Diego, you're allowed to sleep in your car during the day, but after 6 p.m. it becomes illegal due to vehicle habitation laws. Riding your bike without front white lights and rear red reflectors is actually illegal in most U.S. states after 6 p.m. for ultimately biker and driver safety. Beating your rug in San Francisco was historically only permitted between midnight and 8 a.m. as to not interfere with pedestrians from the dust clouds that formed, but ultimately they recently changed it. And finally, using power tools after 10 p.m. is banned in a majority of cities as to comply with noise ordinances to let people rest. So now you know. Do you know these Gen Alpha celebrities? Let's see. Probably not, honestly. Oh, she's from Cat's Eye. I have no idea what her name is. Yoon Jung, okay? Isn't that Ronaldo's son? I think his name is Ronaldo, right? Cristiano Ronaldo Jr., okay. All right, not bad so far. It ends here, though. No idea. Malachi Barden, okay. No clue. Freya Sky, all right. That's Rakai. I know he's a Twitch streamer, right? Cool. I don't know. Eliana Walmsley. Nell Fisher, okay. Kyler Emery. I have no idea who this is. Deja Clark. All right, shout out. I tried reaching the bottom of Instagram Reels. So previously, I reached the bottom of the YouTube Shorts feed after thousands of videos and hours of scrolling, and so it had me thinking how long it would take to do Instagram Reels. Before that, though, I tried TikTok because I've actually naturally hit this before after just a few hours of doing it, and after spam scrolling, I was able to get there in under 30 minutes. But I've heard that Instagram Reels is apparently actually endless, and I learned this pretty quickly because after scrolling for an hour and getting through hundreds of videos, it kept serving me more. Eventually, though, I figured I had to speed things up a bit, and so I started rapidly doom scrolling trying to reach the limit, and it was here when it started to take longer to load videos, but unfortunately it was still going, and so I continued onwards and onwards until the 1200th video, and 1 hour and 30 minutes in, I ultimately hit the limit, as I seemed to have reached the bottom because I couldn't get any additional videos. So if you're rapidly scrolling for more than 90 minutes, you will reach the bottom. I tested a sensory vest to see if it actually worked. So to test this, I purchased Wooger's Vest 4 and compared my experience with and without the haptic vest across 3 categories to see how it would enhance my experience. Starting off with music, and I listened directly from my iPhone first to a song with a lot of bass and body, and it was normal, as expected, and when switching to Wooger's Vest, best and playing the same song, I have to say it felt like I was at a live concert, dramatically increasing the quality of the experience. Movies was a similar story, with the sensory vest allowing me to immerse myself more into it by connecting with the on-screen elements. And so I ended things with gaming, and this predictably was arguably the biggest contrast yet, as it helped literally bring the game to life and made every aspect more enjoyable. So in all three instances, the Woodra Vest 4 resonated more with me and elevated my experience, and that's good because it's actually available now in Costco, Sam's Club, and Best Buy, as well as Woodra.com. So make sure to check it out. Pretty cool. What is the most amount of pancakes you can get on one stack at IHOP? So IHOP, of course, is known for their pancakes, but interestingly, their tallest stack they sell is only 5 for their full stack. And so I asked the waitress if we were able to beat this by stacking as many full stacks as possible on a single stack to try and break the record, which apparently is 12, which IHOP actually used to sell at certain locations. And so I put in the order and eagerly awaited the results, and after about 10 minutes, they came back and delivered to me a stack of 15 pancakes, which is 3 full stack orders, which according to the kitchen was the absolute limit before things started to fall off. So I loaded this thing up with syrup and then proceeded to take 2 full minutes cutting through this because of its thickness, and prepared my mega bite, which based on the math, a single bite equated to 500 calories or 3 full pancakes. It tasted really good, and this is what things look like afterwards, but now you know if you want to maximize your IHOP stack, 15 seems to be the limit before things start to fall. Very cool. I asked AI to recreate this image 100 times to see what would happen. So the first recreation was this, which was honestly pretty close to the original image, but then things went downhill very quickly because after recreating that, it turned the next iteration into this, with features like my eyelashes and beard looking drawn on. I asked it to recreate it 10 more times afterwards, and this is where things got cursed with heavy pixelation and a completely unrecognizable face. After 30 recreations and my ears and head started getting wider and my entire face looked like a Picasso painting, I was curious how much worse this could get though, and so this is what the 50th, 60th, 70th, 80th, and 90th recreation looked like. And as I approached the 100th recreation, I had no idea what I was looking at anymore, but decided to do one more, and it ended up spitting out this. So here's the before and after, and I don't know where things went wrong, but that is definitely not me. Pretty cool. I bought somebody's random USB stick to see what was on it. So I found this USB stick on eBay for $75, and I thought that was a strange thing to sell, and so I wanted to see what it could possibly be hiding. It was being shipped from Israel, so it took a month to get here, but when it finally arrived, I opened it up, and it looked pretty normal, but what about when I plugged it in? Well, that's where things got strange, because it literally had the faces of tens of thousands of people, apparently AI generated, all in different folders. It broke it down by demographics, including age and gender, and it's literally just endless photos of people who honestly look pretty real. There's also a couple of other files on there that I'm not able to access, but one thing's for certain, I definitely shouldn't have plugged this into my computer because it definitely released malware and it's probably broken my PC. I have no idea why somebody would be in possession of this. These are celebrities that married their fans. So Steve Harvey met his wife at the front row of one of his comedy shows in 2007, and they ended up getting married after he approached her after the show. Taylor Lautner married a mega Twilight fan whose name also happens to be Taylor, making them now both Taylor Lautner. She was notably Team Edward. Katie Holmes was a big fan of Tom Cruise before they got married and even had posters of him on his wall just a few years prior. Billy Joe Armstrong married his wife after she came to a concert and approached him for a signed CD of their work, and Randy Orton actually married the mother of a fan that came to a meet and greet to get some merch signed. Liam Payne was briefly engaged to and dating fans who attended meet and greets when they were younger, and even Neville from Harry Potter married a Harry Potter event coordinator named Angela who he met during an event in 2016. And finally, Hailey Bieber was a mega fan of Justin Bieber throughout her entire life before ultimately wooing him and getting married and having a kid with him earlier this year. Pretty cool, right? How much money does it take to empty a vending machine? So I've always been curious, 1, how many drinks in a vending machine there are, and 2, how much money vending machine operators make. And so to test this, I went to a vending machine with hundreds of dollars to see how much it would take to empty it out. And so I began, going one by one, starting with the Pepsi and working my way through the other drinks, with each drink coming in between $3 and $6. Eventually, after 20 minutes, I got tired though, and so I called in a vending machine expert to finish the task, and he did this, no joke, for 2 hours straight, one drink at a time, until we bought 150 sodas, which cost over $600, which sold out a majority of the sodas. But the worst part is we weren't even able to buy every drink because we ran out of money, so unfortunately we'll have to finish up some other day. But I'm pretty sure there's $1,000 worth of about 200 different sodas in a single vending machine. Good business. Can you bring a Nerf blaster to a shooting range? So to test this, I purchased a high-power Nerf blaster and packed it up in a case and brought it to my local shooting range to see if they would let me in. After walking in and signing some waivers, I was good to go, and I had management open my case to check what was in there, and to my surprise, he was actually cool with it and excited to see how it would perform. I prepared my blaster, excited to see how powerful this thing was, and started with a basic 10-meter target. And to my surprise, this blaster was actually crazy, reaching a 200 FPS and hitting the target easily. And so I backed it up to 20 meters, and it was the same story, and then 30 meters, and the blaster continued to triumph. Unfortunately, though, it wasn't powerful enough to reach 40 meters, but I did have this super booster attachment it came with that increased the range by 50 feet, and after doing so, I was actually able to hit it. So not only can you bring your Nerf blaster to the shooting range, but you'll also be sure to hit your marks. What is actually behind the camera in my room? Because you guys know what's behind me. I mean, clearly there's a lot going on, but how about on the other side? Well, I'm about to show you for the first time ever. All right, here I go. Don't say I didn't warn you. Just kidding. I created that using Adobe Firefly, which is Adobe's AI-powered creative studio. I specifically used this prompt using the generate video feature, and what's cool is that Firefly is the only place where you can generate and actually finish the video. So afterward, you can use the video editor, for example, to finish off production since it's an all-in-one workflow. AI video is moving beyond clips and into real video creation, so get started using Adobe Firefly today. Maybe one day I'll show you. How many people actually scan random QR codes on the street? So to test this, I went to Washington Square Park in New York City and printed out flyers containing a QR code to my YouTube channel and put them up all over the park on things like lampposts, trees, and just about everything in between. After putting about 15 QR codes up scattered throughout the area, I decided to leave and wait a full week to see what the amount was. Now, just given the sheer volume of QR codes that I put up, coupled with the amount of people that were in the area on day one, I was expecting at least 100 people to scan it over the course of 7 days. But to my genuine surprise, that was not even close to the case because after checking the stats, a grand total of 5 people ended up scanning the QR code, which is so incredibly low that the only explanation I have is that somebody must have sabotaged and took down every single one of the QR codes. Or New Yorkers just don't care, which, to be honest, is actually equally plausible. But now you know. I created a mascot for Amazon. So Amazon is one of the world's largest companies, but notably does not have a mascot, and so I figured I'd change that by creating a mascot inspired by their Prime boxes named Boxy. I hired a costume designer to bring this to life, and when it arrived, it looked exactly like the render, and I was excited to bring it to the Amazon warehouse to see what people thought. When I got there, I went inside to greet a few warehouse workers, and they seemed to enjoy the look of Boxy, as did some of the customers going in for package pickup and drop-off. Afterwards, I did some roadside cheering to show off Boxy, and we had tons of people honking, excited to see the new Amazon mascot. From here, I went to the delivery drivers and took some pictures and waved to the flex drivers who were loading up their cars before ultimately wrapping it up and retiring Boxy for the day, mainly because it was impossible to both see and breathe out of it. But I think Amazon could use Boxy. How much air does it take to explode an air mattress? So I bought an air mattress to answer this question and purchased a manual pump that could be used to push it beyond its limit. I started off with the automatic pump just to get it to its normal base state, and then I switched things over to the manual pump because I wanted to continue onwards past the normal point of what you'd sleep on. And I kept going and going until my arm was getting physically tired, so I had my friend step in to continue pumping, and every second was suspenseful. And then finally, after 10 minutes of manually pumping, this is what ultimately happened. It was very loud. I don't recommend doing this. I tried breaking the egg drop world record. So the official record says 82 feet, but I figured I could beat that, and so I started with level 1 and worked my way up. Level 1. Level 2. Level 3. Level 4. And then it was time for level 5, in which I had to use an actual drone to lift it 100 feet off the ground, and this is what happened. So I actually broke the record, but I wanted to go even higher for level 6 just to see if 200 feet was possible, and this is what happened. I don't think that one's possible, but I am officially a record holder. Very cool. What pizza gives you the most pepperoni? So to test this, I purchased a standard pepperoni pizza from Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, Papa John's, Domino's, and my local spot, and had a look at the amount and size of the pepperonis on each. Starting with Pizza Hut, this one actually had a decent amount to start things off, and they had pretty good size and girth on top of it. Next was Little Caesars, and this one had even more, filling up the entirety of the pizza, though the pepperonis were slightly thinner. Moving on to Papa John's, and honestly, I wasn't expecting much, and for good reason, because this had the least by far. And so fourth up, we had Domino's, which is my favorite of the fast pizzas. And while these had some of the beefiest pepperonis in terms of size, it did not have the most. Which then just leaves us with my local spot, and this one already mogged in terms of size, and upon opening it up, it also mogged for total amount and the quality of the pepperonis. So buy local. How long could you stay at a Dunkin' after it closes? So to do this, I went to my local Dunkin' 10 minutes before closing to pick up an iced tea, and after the worker finished cleaning out the bathroom, I decided to sneak in the bathroom to hide, knowing that they wouldn't check it again, to see if I could stay in there till they closed up the store, not realizing that I was in there. And so once I was in, I waited in there for about 10 minutes until the store was officially closed, and then proceeded to listen through the walls to listen for when the employees were gone. After about 10 more minutes, I couldn't hear anything, so I proceeded to leave, and after opening the bathroom door, I realized the lights were off, and I thought for sure I was locked in and everybody left, since I was in there well past closing at this point. And so I got to the door, and I realized it was actually locked, and I thought an alarm was going to go off, but luckily an employee came out right then and told me nonchalantly that I can just twist the lock to leave, and so I left. I guess he's seen much crazier things, but definitely don't do this. What happens if you set 1,000 alarm clocks at once? So for some reason, Apple allows you to set multiple alarms at the same exact time, meaning that you can set an infinite amount of alarms for a set time if you'd like, and I was curious if the alarm would be 1,000 times louder and crazier if you set that many. And so I set a time and then duplicated that alarm 999 more times, making sure to use, of course, the most annoying iPhone alarm sound, then proceeded to fall asleep and awaited the alarms to go off. And when they did, I was surprised to just hear a single alarm. And upon clicking snooze, all the rest of the alarms turned off actually. So it didn't do anything, anything, and so instead I decided to set 60 alarms in a row for every minute in an hour, and this turned out exactly as you'd expect, with every alarm interrupted by a new alarm, which would go on for an entire hour, until eventually I decided to get up because I couldn't physically take it anymore. But now you know that setting multiple alarms at the same exact time does absolutely nothing. These are products that are made from the human body. So a brand called Human Leather in the UK uses legally donated skin from cadavers to create wallets and belts, though many people question the ethics of it. Egyptian brown paint, also called mummy brown, was made by grinding up ancient Egyptian mummies, and this was actually used as the official color all the way up until 1960 when the color man ran out of mummies. In 2007, an eco-boat circumnavigating the globe came up with lipodiesel, which converted 2 gallons of human fat donated by the crew members to fuel by transforming their triglycerides. The placentas of mothers are encapsulated and sold by companies as a dietary pill to help with postpartum recovery, and some will actually prepare it fresh as food and serve it as a meal. Many modern beauty products actually use it as a serum or cream as well because of the nutrients that it contains. And finally, scientists have created bulletproof vests and medical sutures from human silk by splicing collagen into silkworms. That's crazy. How many times can I 6-7? Let's go standing. Okay, not bad. What happens if you drop an anvil on a full-size Labubu? Starting with level 1, an anvil versus a watermelon, this went exactly as expected. After this was level 2, an anvil versus a full-size traffic light, which was a battle of the heavyweights and ended up like this. And now time for level 3, which is the anvil versus Labubu, so I got it ready and dropped it, leading to this. The anvil easily won, but just to be safe, I dropped it again on the crime scene, and while it didn't cause a massive explosion, it punctured the Labubu's stomach, officially killing it. So now you know. These are things that are surprisingly legal. So owning a flamethrower is unregulated in 48 states since they're classified as tools and not weapons, and you can also legally own cannons and grenades under the Firearms Act so long as you pay a $200 tax on each device. You can legally own and drive a tank on the streets, assuming you demilitarize the cannon and install rubber tracks on the bottom so you don't destroy the pavement. Eating food in a grocery store before paying is completely legal so long as you pay when exiting, and you can also technically go into a bank and ask for money so long as there's no implied threat. Counting cards at a casino is technically legal and is only frowned upon by the casinos themselves because you're winning too much money. When you're in a public space, you can technically record the inside of private businesses so long as you're remaining on the public side. And finally, if you're under the age of 21, you can still technically drink alcohol if you meet 2 requirements, with 1 being so long as you're a culinary student, and 2 being you spit it out before swallowing it. Pretty cool, right? I bought a $6,000 gorilla couch. So I previously purchased this $1,500 inflatable gorilla, but as you can see, he's pretty low quality. And so instead, I found an actual version online because I thought it was time to replace him. And if you think you're going crazy, you're not. That dog couch is actually moving. I created that using Adobe Firefly, which is Adobe's AI-powered creative studio. I specifically used this prompt using the generate video feature, and what's cool is that Firefly is the only place where you can generate and actually finish the video. So afterwards, you can use the video editor so you could finish off production since it's an all-in-one workflow. AI video is moving beyond clips and into real generation, so get started using Adobe Firefly today, right? These are sounds you've never heard before. So this is the sound of ants if you were to go really up close and listen to them communicating. This is the sound that your cells make. This is the sound of fish deep in the ocean. This is what plants actually sound like when they're in need of water. This is bacteria moving around. This is the sound of the vacuum of space approaching a black hole. And then this is the sound of silence. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Pretty cool, right?
কি হইছে বলতো? আর বলিস না, তোরে যে বুকিং দিছে, সে তো এখন আমার পিছনে লাগছে।
দিশান, আমার দরজা লাগিয়ে দিছে। আমার দরজা লাগিয়ে দিছে। কই যায়? কই যা?
আমরা তো বিয়েই দিয়ে দিবে বাসা থেকে।
মাম্মা, লাভ স্টোরি তো শুরু করে দিলা। ভালো 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 মালটারে কি পড়ানো যায়?
তুই একটা কাম কর, আজকে থেকে আমি তোমার, তুমি আমার, ব্যাস ডিসিশন ফাইনাল, বুকিং দিয়ে রাখলাম, ঠিক আছে? কি খবর তোমাদের, কেমন আছো তোমরা সবাই? ভালো তো না? তুমি জানো তোমায় কালকে তো কতবার বলছি।
হ্যালো, আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম।
কি রে এদার তুইন মানা করতেছি ভাবি, আপনি জানেন আমি একবার অসুস্থ হয়ে গেছিলাম, ও আমাকে রক্ত দেয়নি, আর আজকে আপনাকে রক্ত দিয়ে চিঠি লিখছে।
কালকে সারা রাত তোমার আমি কল দিচ্ছি।
সারা রাত? তাহলে আপনি শুনুন আপনার ভালোবাসার মানুষের অতীত বর্তমান।
পাগল কোন একদম ঠিক হয় ওনার ব্যথা লাগে নাই?
ব্যথা তো বেশি তুই
তুহিনে ব্যথা লাগছে না?
বন্ধু তুই চিন্তা করিস না রে, ভাবির মন ঠিকই গলে যাবে।
ভাবির মন তো ঘুরবে কিন্তু
আরে না না না,
সম্ভব না। গাড়ি ঘোড়া তো
হঠাৎ আমার বাসার নিচে কোনো জরুরি দরকার?
তুমি কি আজকে কোচিং এ যাও নাই? সুন্দর মতো যাবি, ভাবির নামটা জিজ্ঞাসি। আর শোন, ভালো মতো কথা কবে, ভাবি লাগে। খালি ফাপড় আর চাপাবাজি, এই বাদে আর কিছু পাচ্ছস? বুকিং মানে বুকিং, তুমি আমার আমি তোমার, বুকিং দিয়ে দিছি ফাইনাল।
আমাকে বুকিং দিছে মানে আমাকে কে বুকিং দিছে দোস্ত?
তোর যে আশিক আছে না, এখন তো আমার পিছনে লাগছে।
আমার তো অনেক ভয় লাগতেছে দোস্ত। এই যে আস্তে আস্তে সব মানুষ জানবে, তারপর আমার ফ্যামিলিকেও জানাই দিবে। আর আমার
এন্ড বেস্ট অফ লাক ফর ডক্টরশিপ। আমি দোয়া করি তুমি যেন একজন ভালো ডক্টর হও।
আমার কাছে জিনের বাচ্চার নাম্বার আছে। জিনের বাচ্চা
করতে চাস নাকি ইটিস পিটিস করতে চাস? বদতমিজ।
হ্যালো বন্ধু, আমার রোদে দিছস?
এই তো দিছি তো।
ঠিক মতো রোদে দিছস?
কি শুনতে চান? আমি আপনাকে ভালোবাসি।
ফোন দিয়ে যেতেছি, তুমি ফোনই ধরো না। তোমার ফোন ধরার কোনো নামই নাই, কোনো কথা। তোমার ফোন ধরো না কেন?
এবারে এক্সামের প্রিপারেশন কিরকম তোদের? আমি তো খুবই এক্সাইটেড, কারণ আমার প্রিপারেশন খুবই ভালো।
জিসান দরজা খোল।
কি বুঝতেছি না। সুন্দর মতো যাবি, ভাবির নামটা জিজ্ঞাসি। আর শোন, ভালো মতো কথা কবে, ভাবি লাগে। খালি ফাপড় আর চাপাবাজি, এই বাদে আর কিছু পাচ্ছস? বুকিং মানে বুকিং, তুমি আমার আমি তোমার, বুকিং দিয়ে দিছি ফাইনাল।
আমাকে বুকিং দিছে মানে আমাকে কে বুকিং দিছে দোস্ত?
তোর যে আশিক আছে না, এখন তো আমার পিছনে লাগছে।
এই এই দুলাভাই সামনে থাকলে যে সালাম দিতে হয়, আপনি শিখাই নাই তোরা? কেমন আছো তুমি?
ভালো।
আমাকে জিজ্ঞেস করবো না? রক্তটা দিবি তুই?
আমি কেন রক্ত দেবো? প্রেম খরচ তুই, রক্ত।
আমার বন্ধু দিছেন আপনাকে অনেক ভালোবাসি ভাবি। আপনার ওর রক্ত যাওয়াটা বিধে হতে দিবেন না ভাবি।
I created a mascot for Best Buy. So Best Buy doesn't have a mascot, but they do have their iconic yellow price tag logo, and so I decided to create it into a mascot called Bestie with the goal of promoting the store. I got a costume designer to actually make it for me, and when it arrived, it was exactly like I had mocked up, complete with a really friendly smile, so I was excited to see the response. My goal was to give people the best buy by handing out $20 bills outside of the store to promote purchasing, and there's actually a good amount of enthusiasm from the customers coming in, and I even set up a couple of secret money hiding spots for future customers to benefit from. Afterwards, I tried to bring it inside, but unfortunately Best Buy employees didn't want any part in this. But not gonna lie, even Bestie couldn't contribute to the lack of customers going in. So I continued being Bestie just outside of the store, saying hi to more customers until ultimately it started raining, which ultimately then concluded my run as Bestie the Best Buy mascot. I don't know why they don't want him. I think he's cute.